Good evening. Tonight we are taking a hard look at a question many Americans are quietly asking, but few leaders are answering directly. Is the United States entering a period of deeper instability, both at home and abroad, from rising public frustration to political gridlock in Washington to global tensions that refuse to cool down? The signs are not isolated. They are connected, and together they suggest that the country may be approaching a critical turning point. Domestic pressure is building. Across the nation, communities are facing challenges that feel heavier than in years past. Rising living costs, concerns about public safety, and growing distrust of political institutions have combined into a sense of uncertainty that cuts across party lines. People are not just debating policy anymore. They are questioning whether the system is still working for them. Local governments struggle to respond to social tensions. Federal agencies are increasingly involved in issues once handled at the city or state level, and political leaders often appear more focused on assigning blame than solving problems. When authority becomes fragmented, confidence weakens, and when confidence weakens, social tension grows. The trust gap. Perhaps the most serious problem facing the country right now is not economic or military, it is psychological. Public trust in institutions has declined sharply in recent years. Many Americans believe they are being misled, ignored, or manipulated by powerful interests. This belief, whether fully accurate or not, shapes behavior, political engagement, and social cohesion. When people lose faith in leadership, they seek alternative sources of authority, online movements, ideological groups, and charismatic figures who promise simple solutions to complex problems. History shows that societies become most vulnerable when citizens no longer believe in shared rules or neutral institutions. Global tensions add to the strain. At the same time, international conflicts continue to place pressure on U.S. foreign policy. Diplomatic negotiations remain fragile. Strategic rivals test boundaries. Regional disputes threaten to expand beyond their original borders. Each crisis demands attention, resources, and political unity. Yet domestic division makes unified responses increasingly difficult. Foreign policy does not exist in isolation. What happens overseas affects energy prices, trade stability, cybersecurity, and even migration flows. When global tensions rise, domestic challenges often follow. The leadership dilemma. One of the defining challenges of this moment is leadership paralysis. Political leaders face constant pressure from competing interests, social media outrage cycles, and highly polarized voter bases. Every decision risks backlash. Every compromise is framed as weakness. As a result, many decisions are delayed, softened, or avoided entirely. But uncertainty does not pause for political caution. Problems that are not addressed tend to grow, not fade. And when leadership hesitates, public frustration intensifies. Why this moment feels different? America has faced hardship before, economic downturns, social unrest, international conflicts. But what makes the current moment unique is how many stress points are occurring simultaneously. Economic pressure, political polarization, institutional distrust, geopolitical instability. Each one alone would be difficult. Together, they create a level of complexity that strains governance and social unity. This does not mean collapse is inevitable, but it does mean that the margin for error is shrinking. At this moment, the United States stands at a strategic crossroads. One path leads toward gradual stabilization, not through dramatic gestures, but through sustained institutional repair, economic reform, and social rebuilding. The other path leads toward prolonged volatility, where crises become normal, emergency measures become routine, and political conflict replaces long-term planning. Neither outcome is guaranteed, but both are possible, and the difference lies in decisions being made right now. What stability would require? Stability does not begin with slogans. It begins with credibility. Citizens must believe that rules are applied fairly, that leadership is competent, and that long-term national interests matter more than short-term political wins. This requires clear public communication instead of constant messaging battles, economic policies that address cost of living pressures, serious investment in public institutions, not just emergency responses, a foreign policy that balances strength with diplomacy. None of these steps are dramatic, but together they rebuild trust, and trust is the foundation of social order. Without it, no amount of enforcement or legislation can restore confidence. The risk of continuing on the current course. If political division continues to deepen, the consequences may not appear as a single dramatic event, but as a steady erosion of civic stability. Public disengagement increases. Political extremism becomes more attractive. Institutional legitimacy weakens further. In such an environment, every crisis becomes harder to manage because fewer people believe in the authority of those trying to manage it. And once that belief collapses, restoring it can take decades. History offers countless examples of nations that did not fail suddenly, but gradually through accumulated distrust and unresolved conflict. Why leadership now matters more than ever. Leadership during stable periods is about growth and progress. Leadership during unstable periods is about preventing fragmentation. Right now, the country does not simply need policies. It needs coordination, restraint, and a willingness to reduce political temperature rather than inflame it. That means avoiding constant escalation in political rhetoric, prioritizing governance over performance, making difficult compromises that do not please extremes on either side. This is not glamorous leadership, but it is effective leadership. The role of the public citizens also play a role in determining which path the nation follows. Public pressure shapes political behavior. Media consumption shapes political incentives. Social division grows when outrage becomes more rewarding than cooperation. When society rewards only conflict, leaders will continue to deliver conflict. When society demands solutions, leaders eventually adjust. Civic responsibility does not end at the ballot box. It includes how communities engage with disagreement and how much division they are willing to normalize. Final warning and hope. Tonight's message is not that crisis is inevitable. It is that direction is not automatic. Stability requires active maintenance. Democracy requires trust. Prosperity requires cooperation. And none of those survive long when political warfare replaces governance. The United States still possesses strong institutions, economic power, and social resilience. But those strengths are not permanent if they are neglected or abused. The next few years will not be defined by one election, one protest, or one international incident. They will be defined by whether the country chooses long-term recovery over short-term political conflict. Political leaders face constant pressure from competing interests, social media outrage cycles, and highly polarized voter bases. Every decision risks backlash. Every compromise is framed as weakness. As a result, many decisions are delayed, softened, or avoided entirely. But uncertainty does not pause for political caution. Problems that are not addressed tend to grow, not fade. And when leadership hesitates, public frustration intensifies. Why this moment feels different? America has faced hardship before: economic downturns, social unrest, international conflicts. But what makes the current moment unique is how many stress points are occurring simultaneously: economic pressure, political polarization, institutional distrust, geopolitical instability. Each one alone would be difficult. Together, they create a level of complexity that strains governance and social unity. This does not mean collapse is inevitable, but it does mean that the margin for error is shrinking. America has reached moments like this before, and history shows that outcomes depend not only on leaders, but on the collective choices of its people. The warning signs are visible. The opportunity for correction still exists. What happens next will depend on which direction the nation decides to move. Good night, and stay informed.